I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your cattle market summary for the week ending May the 13th, brought to you in part by the American Simmental Association, which is the founding partner of International Genetic Solutions and represents 12 breed associations, having the largest pool of beef genetic evaluation information in the whole world with over 16 million head. See what SimGenetics can do for you. Go to simmental.org. The more you study these cattle markets and cattle and beef markets together, and I've reported them and analyzed them for a long time, you see that pretty much everything works against each other. A lot like supply and demand, but at several different levels in this. But you know, we saw the big advance in the cash market this week, and I talked on the last meeting there that the cash has been more volatile than the futures even. Everybody's having a fit about all the volatility in the futures market, and now we've backed off all that volatility in the futures market to the fact that we just have absolutely no support in the futures market, and the bases are so large, both in feeder cattle and the fat cattle board, that it really does a poor indicator of what the market is or will be, and the spot markets might be early in that month or just the next month out, but it seems like a long time, and they just refuse to stay together enough to really give a good indicator of what the market is, and we've seen a lot of that really vivid this past week. Your live cattle futures for June were pretty decent all week, and nothing like we had the previous week, but closed Friday up 85 cents to end the week at 123.42. Now all of your out fronts, all of them, the rest of your traded months on live cattle were all down. All your other months for the rest of this calendar year are in the one teens somewhere, so a lot lower than what we have at this week at 123.42. Next year, going into next year, like the early summer months of next year, are just less than $1.10. So we don't really have anything to look forward to. That's the problem with the board and investors and people in Chicago looking at things, that they have a hard time figuring out fundamentals sometimes, but they can see when we don't have a whole lot to look forward to, which is kind of where we're at, and it just puts a lot of pressure on the board. Short term right here, we've got a lot of positive things to look at fundamentally, but we don't have anything long term to look at. And you see that in your feeder cattle. Your May contract was down 77 cents on Friday to end the week at 147.05. And as good a week as we had in trade in general, your May feeder cattle futures were down 65 cents for the week. August was down $1 and ended the week at 146.25, and that's really where we need to be looking. Right now, May's just trying to align itself with the CME feeder cattle index, which closed the week at 146.21. Your real-time index is at 146.66, and some of you people that are analysts, if you're trying to figure out what the CME feeder cattle index is doing, and you're searching through reports and rifling through them, trying to figure out where the government market reporters are going to be and what they put in their laptop computers, you're wasting your time. You just need to go to Cattle Market Central or go to Beef Market Central on the app or either on the laptop, and get in there and look at your real-time index, because it's doing it all for you. It's automated. We're in some sales that they're not in, and vice versa, but we've got a big enough pool, well over 100 sale barns reporting in there automatically, and it's a big enough pool that it just stays right with your CME index and just leads it because it's a whole day ahead of time. But be sure and check that out. But you talked about your beef working against each other. Your fat cattle this week with a huge volume, and about the biggest volume we've seen in a long time, both of negotiated sold fat cattle and the slaughter of fat cattle. So that's a big week, and it should be a big gangbusters, but the board's just so far behind what cash is. They sold over 130,000 head of fat cattle this week, and there'll be more than that by the time they wrap the whole thing up for the week, but $5 to $7 higher on a live basis from 132 to 135, $10 higher dressed at 210, And that's just great. You would think that everything would be bullish, but it's really not, because your board is trading at least a $9 to $12, $13 discount to what cash is. It's not keeping up. But at the same time, you look at your hedged cattle feeders, they think it's great. Because whenever they hedged their cattle that they put on feed, they were betting that the market would go down, and so they're getting to put that extra $10 or more right in their pocket, which makes it seem like their cattle are bringing $1.45, which is probably what they need close to break even. So that's really helping them out in a big way. But it just seems like things are working against each other. It's just like on your cattle grading, everybody wants nice, square-made, thick, heavy muscle cattle that'll grow a lot. Problem is, when you put those cattle in a feedlot, their ribeyes are so muscled up and tight, they have a hard time grading choice because they can't get as much intramuscular fat. And you see that your plainer cattle, your lighter muscled cattle, are the ones that have the easiest time grading up in the choice category or even prime. And we know that the breed that gives us the most primes is Jersey, and it's the lightest muscled animal, but it's just constantly things working against each other. Slaughter this past week was huge, 601,000 estimated, which it's been a long time since we've killed over 600,000 cattle. It used to be 15, 20 years ago, that was just a normal occurrence, and you would always kill, up to 615, 20, 30, but it's been a long time since we've done it here. That's 14,000 more than last week and 33,000 more than the same week a year ago. But you remember some of these feedlots that were worried about this market going down, they sold their cattle here 2 or 3, 4 weeks ago for a delivery, which would be coming right now. And they thought they was getting ahead of the game, and they sold those cattle at $1.24 or less, which would be $10 or more less than what they're bringing this week. So let that be a lesson to them. That really hurt the trade. But things would probably be better now if people hadn't sold their cattle out for a 2 to 3 week or a month delivery, because it just takes all the leverage away, and it makes it harder for the people that are trading negotiated every week, which really rely on those tight numbers and the big kill and the things to help us. But we're getting more current all the time, and probably this currentness will last up until the middle of the summer, which will coincide with the dog days of summer, which is really going to make it tough going down. And your fat cattle market is going to be going down just week after week. When we get into the dog days of summer, it's going to make it tough on your feeder cattle trade. And like I've said before, you guys that see an opportunity while we have this short-term bullishness to contract your yearlings off grass, you need to take advantage of that, because this is looking like one year that it's not going to pay to hold on to them like it has maybe 2 or 3 years ago. But box beef cutout values this week were up big. Comparing Friday to Friday, they're up over $10. But I like to look at the week's average trade on choice. It was $213 even, which is up $7.28. Your select is starting to lag way behind because we're not having as many choice or better cattle, because we are starting to get current. So your select carcasses were at $201.72, which was up $5.23. Cash feeders this week ranged anywhere from $2 to $10 higher. Mostly $3 to $6 higher on the average, but some of those calf prices were as much as $20 higher. Look at your OKC West El Reno livestock market report that come off of Cattle Market Central there, and you see the big gains that we're seeing there, and look how many of those big heavy yearlings were coming off graze out wheat. A lot of those cattle weighing up in the 8s and 9s, and not listed here is some cattle that weighed over 1,000 pounds that you just normally don't see in a market like that. Look at another market report on Cattle Market Central. There is Farmers and Ranchers Livestock out of Salina, Kansas, and they don't get the graze out wheat cattle in there, and not a lot of cattle really moving this time of year, but they did have a decent run. But you just see pretty well spread out over the calves, your stocker cattle, your lighter weight feeders, and the heavier ones. Just huge gains in there, and the market was really good. And one individual quote there out of Salina about 4 o'clock on Thursday, had a load of 866-pound steers, bring 150.85, and that is just dollars and dollars better than what we could have seen the last few weeks. But from a home office here in Maysville, Missouri, we'll talk to you on Wednesday.